you know, I think we're live now. Okay.
Yeah, we're
Hi,
live.
I'm
Let's
Julia
do
Flood.
it.
I have had the privilege to serve as artistic director of Metro Theater Company since 2014. Metro Theater Company is entering its 48th season as a professional theater for young audiences in St. Louis, Missouri. Everything we do is inspired by the intelligence and emotional wisdom of young people. And we produce plays, including developing new work. We take character building, theater based educational opportunities into classrooms, and we work every day to provoke dialogue that will build inclusive community in our region and across the country, and working with our colleagues in the field of theater for young audiences. And I'm really thrilled today to have Idris Goodwin with us. Idris is a multidisciplinary arts leader and creative community builder. Across 2 decades, he's forged a multifaceted career as an award-winning playwright, a breakbeat poet, director, educator, and organizer. After 2 seasons as producing artistic director at Stage One Family Theater in Louisville, Kentucky, Idris now serves as the new director of the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. Passionate about cultivating new audiences in the arts, Idris actively serves on the national boards of Theater for Young Audiences USA and the Children's Theater Foundation of America, as well as on New Mexico's 516 Arts. A catalyst for culture, Idris uses his full creative powers to galvanize people to the community square. He is a creative voice for change, impassioned by art for social good. Idris is a favorite with Metro Theater Company audiences. His work includes this past season's production of Ghost, adapted from the novel by Jason Reynolds and co-commissioned by Nashville Children's Theater and Metro Theater Company, and our 2015-2016 production of And in This Corner, CASSIUS Clay, about the young Muhammad Ali. And that play, recorded live before an audience of young people, is currently available to stream through Metro Theater Company's website, metroplays.org, through the end of July. And Metro Theater Company is also planning to produce Idris's new play, Jacked, during our upcoming season. Welcome, my friend and fellow arts activist, Idris Goodwin.
Hey,
How are you? It's great to have
wow. It's good to
you.
see you.
Good. Idris, I first encountered your work when a colleague let me know about the premiere of And in This Corner, Cassius Clay that was happening in Louisville. It was a play that had been commissioned by Stage One before you were artistic director, and about the youth, the part of Muhammad Ali's story that we don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I moved to St. Louis in 2014 and had been here just a few months when Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson. And I was looking for a play at that moment to help the young people in our community, to help all of us really process what was happening. And I've told you this before, but when I read your play, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I knew this was the play that we needed to do. I'd love to hear from you about how that play came to be and just your experience with that play.
Yeah, I love when you tell that story. So I'm gonna always pretend like I don't remember that you told me. You keep telling that story. Peter Holloway, who was the artistic director of Stage One Family Theater at the time, just called me out of the blue, honestly, and was like, call my agent or whatever. But yeah, when he told me about the project, I was just kind of like, stop talking, I'll pay you to get to write this play, you know. Because it's like, come on, no brainer. Like, I love history. I love writing for kids. I love Muhammad Ali. And once I started uncovering more about the story, about the bike and the Joe Martin and all of that, it just kind of almost wrote itself, to be honest. There's no shortage of, when you look at the Young Life, it's like it's not a surprise that this person went on to be such an impactful and dynamic person, because he was such a dynamic and in almost, not to say that it's hard to believe, but like it's almost like you're reading the origin of a superhero or something. It's just so tremendous and inspiring. And being there and seeing it when you did it in St. Louis, and seeing the young people react to the scene where Ali goes to Joe Martin and is hooping and hollering, and Joe Martin is calm with him and invites him to the gym to learn how to box and all that, and becomes like his first mentor, is really arresting in this climate to see. It's like what changed, and I mean there have to be some Joe Martins still alive now. What are their stories? Like, are there other narratives as well, or officers who should be the model for, you know what I mean? Because it's like,
exactly.
yeah, it's like there's a model of this sort of militaristic and aggressive officer that most people encounter, but like where's the other, like where's the more community minded Joe Martin officer, and can we spotlight and highlight that person to present another example of how to really. So to me, that's why the play is so relevant. That's the moment I fixate on the most when I think about the show. And it's a moment that just, when I was writing it in 2012, 2013, it was just, and then this cop asked, and it's only been later that I'm realizing, like, wow, what a big moment. And so as a writer, it sort of taught me, it's just a thing, like you never know what you got until later.
That's true.
I promise all the answers aren't going to be that long, by the way.
You can talk as long as you want. It's just you and me. One of the things that I thought, that was one of the moments when I read the play that really I thought, oh yeah, and it happened every time with the kids after the play when they would be talking with the actors. When an actor, one of the performers would ask them, "What did you think was going to happen in that scene?" And most of the kids thought he was going to be arrested. They did not think the cop was going to say, "Hey, let's focus that rage somewhere else." Right?
There you go, man.
Yeah, I know.
And that rage in a positive way.
and when you think about the story of Joe Martin, I mean, this particular kid became a superhero that we all came to know, but there were hundreds of kids that he had that experience with.
That's right.
And some black, some white, but he, and I think you're right. There probably are people out there who are doing this kind of thing, and that's not what we're hearing about. And those are the models we want to follow.
We do, because we want, we want to have, people mirror. We're mirror oriented as a species, and if we can present some other paradigms, and not to be like, see guys, they're not all bad, but to say no, like that's what it looks like. That's what policing looks like. That's what serving looks like. That's what serving looks like, And so I think in this moment, in this conversation about defunding and reforming, that's what I'm getting at. Like in this conversation about reform, let's look to the examples of the case studies, the architect, the people who are really, doing it in a way where people really feel like they're, an extension of their community,
Yeah. The other moment in the play that really got to me was when Eddie's at the sit-in and the white characters pour the orange juice and the milk over him. When I read that on the page, I thought that is one of the most violent things I've ever seen in a play.
Yeah, in a play about fighting.
Yeah, and it got a visceral response from the young people watching it, and older people too. This play was kind of amazing. I think I may have told you this, I don't remember, but we had a family come with, I think, a 3-month-old, and we also had someone's grandmother who was 102 come to see this play. We had the full range of people, and I can't even begin to tell you how many people came up to me, and just because I would do the curtain speech, so they focused on me, but they would come up after and hug me and say, "Thank you for doing this," and begin to tell me about an experience they had had with some kind of racism in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And not kids, grown-ups who were just really moved by it,
Mm-hmm.
the parallels of what was going on. It really, I feel like my experience of the play and my experience of watching the young people watch the play was really healing for a lot of people in our community. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of community activity around it,
Mm-hmm.
conversations and other things. And what was it like? I know you watched it with your son on video,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a babe when you wrote it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was
Mm-hmm.
that like? And how old is he? He's
He
7?
was, yeah, 7 going on 8. He was totally into it because he read it.
Okay.
We read it one day early on when we were doing school at home when the lockdown started. I was teaching him history, and it got to be too much, like trying to do all the research ahead of time, because I'm like, oh wow, when you teach history, you got to actually like learn history and then teach it. And so I started getting creative and being like, well, I write history plays, so we'll read the plays. And so I started with In This Corner, and he's like a really good reader. But yeah, like he was really into it. I mean, I think he was being a little kind. I think he also,
You can't
watching theater on video can be, you gotta have a certain kind of patience. Yeah. But yeah, no, he dug it. He's a fan of mine. He's really great. He's very supportive. I can tell when he likes some things more than other things, but like I think he digs it.
I love that you put out some plays recently through TYA USA that are short plays for families to read together, to have conversations about race.
Yeah.
And one of them, when I was reading it, the one where the black and white cat is named Obama.
Yeah.
I thought, this is probably a conversation that you may have had. I don't know, but it was a really, I love that those plays are these perfect little self-contained gems that allow people to have an easy way in to talk about these subjects. And some of them are harder than others. There's, some of them, the Black Flag is tough, but also really cool.
Thank you.
I think they just posted the link, so
yeah, they did. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that you did that. That's great.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love. I mean, it's what I love to do. I love to write, and I want to be of use, and I want. And I don't want. I don't. I'm done with racism. Like I need it to be done. Like we got to knock it out.
Yeah, and
you know what I'm saying? And I would write 100
let's
plays.
do that. Let's do it. Let's do it. I think
and it's gonna take everybody, but but that means that those of us in the arts gotta like do it. And we can't be like, well, no. Like, yes, damn it, yes. Yeah. You see them people in this is St. Louis with the guns, the AK. Who are these people?
We were just talking about that. I don't know.
Who are these people? If they're watching right now, what is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
You got an AK-47 and a pink polo on.
Yeah. And I moved here from Florida. So I moved from the land of Trayvon Martin with Stand Your Ground, and it's time. It's that kind of mentality and behavior. It can't stand anymore. It just.
Like, what do you think is the Wild West? Like what?
I know.
What are we doing, yo? Like we got smartphones. Like why are you? I don't get it. Like I don't get like what do these people think this is? Like people are anyway. I don't even want to get it. But I'm like enough with the racism. Like seriously, like it. We know we are like in the information age. Like everything is Googleable. Like we know, there's people like systemic racism isn't real. I'm like, there's a whole Wikipedia page devoted. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't.
You got a Wikipedia page.
Well, that proves it's real.
I mean, it's at least got enough to go on a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That is a lovely segue into talking about you and I are both members of TYA USA, and
we need like a hand thing. We need like or something.
We both have served on the board, and I think you're currently serving on the board of Theater for Young Audiences USA. And
so.
Yeah,
you might be late with my check, but like.
But about a year ago, a little over a year ago, Theater for Young Audiences USA commissioned a study to look into gender and race diversity in our field. And the results were not surprising, but they aren't great. And I have some feelings about the things that I think are most interesting about that, but I would love to, I mean, it's the same conversation we're having. Yeah. But I think talking about what is the responsibility of artists at this moment, it's a little difficult because we're in the middle of COVID-19 and it's hard to do theater in COVID-19. But the one thing that I thought that struck me more than anything else in that study was that even though 77% of the US population is white, 50% of the young people, those 18 and under, is not white. And that is who the Theater for Young Audience is serving, and that is who is the future of our country. So I feel like we have an opportunity to make real and lasting change because of the kind of work that we do.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
Yeah,
I know that.
They're asking me on the chat, can we share the New York Times story? Yes, there is a New York Times story. and we will share that, I guess.
And you were quoted.
Well, and you were quoted many times.
I don't know about many times. Like I got one in there.
Yeah. But
I got one on the paper of record.
I am really excited though, because I feel like this is a time when these kind of changes can really happen.
Yep. I mean, listen. We got the last time the country was in turmoil, we got our first Black president. Okay, so turmoil. When there's turmoil in America, they're like, well, I don't know. Let's see what.
Let's try something different.
Non-white people think maybe they got some ideas.
Yeah.
And then, but we got to make sure we don't let it be too good, because then they're gonna be like, okay, over there.
No, but I do think that we have white people talking about this now, and I know I am a white person. You may not have noticed that, Idris, but we need to start talking about sharing our platforms with people who maybe don't look like us, and also about who our audience is, and how are we reaching out to them in ways that are really resonant for them and can help them to come to a new view of what is possible in the future.
Yeah, and really the thing about it too is it's really time to be weaving it into the fabric. We've been treating it like, and if there's time, and if there's resources, we'll also get to blah. And it's like, no, we gotta make it so no racism can even bloom in this soil, because this soil is enriched with anti-racism antioxidants that you can't even bring it around here. And we just got to be intentional, and we got to be annoying, and like we got to beat it into the ground until there's no trace. And even when there's no more racism, we got to still like do it just to make sure. It's like why theaters keep doing, Diary of Anne Frank, because it's like, we got to make sure, there's nothing that vaguely resembles this that ever comes back. Because even with that, we got the Nazis back. You know what I mean? So we just got to be really intentional and aggressive about it. And it's gotten we get very intellectual about it. We get very whatever about it. And it's like, no, we got to stay on it. We got to I got in this conversation the other day where it's like, I wrote this short play for this exchange. And I wrote this play with just no character names. It's just like two talking humans. And they're like, do you want are these characters Black, Indigenous, POC? And I'm like, these are two talking humans. And I'm like, yeah, but what are they, what's their, and I'm like, oh, you want me to say, don't cast two white people in this thing. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, why should I have to say that?
Yeah.
Like, well, because then they might just cast two white people in there. But I'm like, why would they do something like that? Who would do that? Right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're only gonna cast non-white people if it says what. So that means your default is white people.
Yeah.
And so you see what I'm saying? Like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And even the story I just told, someone might hear that and be like, well, that's not that. No, it's a correlation. There's a correlation with centering, because to your point, the statistic is like where we're going such where a community that is any space that is all white should seem abnormal.
Right.
It should seem abnormal.
And it's already there in our young audiences. It's already to the point of this needs to be their stories. It needs to be their reality reflected on the stage.
That's right. Normalizing the difference, normalizing difference, so that the lack of difference seems abnormal.
Exactly. Yeah.
My goal is like a toe-headed boy walking into a party and being like, "There's a lot of white people up in here."
Yeah, I think that's a good, and kids see themselves in, if you let them, if we had a play that was an all-Black cast that was touring. One of the characters, his dad was in prison and he was dealing with that. And this was an all-white school, an all-white audience. And afterwards, a little boy came up and hugged him and said, "That you just did my story. That's me. You're me." I mean, we underestimate kids and think they're not going to respond to something that isn't exactly their house, their street, their life. No, we need people to see a bigger life. We are about empowering young kids to get beyond the limitations of what may be their immediate circumstances. And racism is not good for anybody.
It is a limiting. Yeah, that's right. It limits us all. It's not just like bad for, it limits us all, because I'm telling you, the moment we get through it, when I think about a moment where we all consider ourselves truly Americans, and we're just like open and freely drawing from each other's brilliance, it's going to be amazing.
It is. I want to remind people that if they want to, they can put questions in the chat, and we would be happy to take those questions. And Idris has brilliant answers for you.
Yeah. Okay.
I would love to know, what is the work that you're doing now or that you're seeing out there, new work that has you most excited right now?
I'll be honest with you. I'm really enjoying seeing like how people are getting creative with digital technology.
Yeah.
Even like StreamYard, like this format we're in now. Just seeing like it's a more elevated form of like, like there's like you can put logos and you know what I'm saying, like even that is really cool. I've been watching Hassan Minaj, his show Patriot Act.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's really great. It's
Yeah.
really great. And I also host a hip hop podcast called Same Old New School with my friend Kevin Koval.
Yeah.
We're about 11 episodes in. And so hip hop music, hip hop culture, the way that they've been really responding to the moment, the socio-political moment, has been really exciting too. I'm really concerned about, I'm thinking a lot about our educators and our, and like them and like what they're going to be up against this fall. And I'm really thinking a lot about them, and I'm thinking about how we in the arts can help them. Like I'm thinking about like what can we offer them? How can we help them do the job, to raise our kids, to help raise our kids and educate our kids. So that's what I'm thinking a lot about. The Free Plays project has been really inspiring to me. Just by that I just mean like the people that have reached out to me through it. I'm running this arts organization. I'm running the Fine Arts Center, Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, and we're responding to the moment. We just put out our anti-racism in the arts pledge, and and are really thinking about how we can combat, this issue, but then also dealing with like how are we going to reopen and da 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 da. So I'm doing a lot, and I'm writing constantly, or not constantly, but I'm trying to write as much as I can. I'm also doing a lot of keynotes and things like that, and I'm just out here, like I feel like people really need conversation and catharsis and all that, and I just feel like a sense of duty, like I feel like I can contribute, so that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to our team at Metro too. It's same thing. Our education team has pivoted in a huge way to be able to support teachers and families and try and give them the tools they need to help our kids. And none of us knows what's coming next, and it's a little scary.
Yeah.
It's a little scary. Yeah. And yeah, you're in a new job running a new art center, and that's a lot. Yeah. And with 2 boys and a lovely family, and there's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm grateful too, Yeah. I'm also grateful.
Yeah, we're some of the lucky ones that have opportunities to do purpose-driven work that can make a difference, and that's a really good thing. I stole something off of Instagram, and it was something that the Florida Theater Conference posted about your speech that you did for their conference, their virtual conference, and their 6 principles. I think that we have it and we can put it up. Ah, there it is in front of us. Tell the story of your name, look at your reflection. Don't reason away your body's intuitive sense of what is right. Don't be afraid, be a citizen artist, be engaged, and be fully, publicly, and 3-dimensionally alive, be visible, and celebrate when possible. I would love to have you talk a little about how this impacts when you're writing a play. It was interesting because when I read this, I was newly immersed in this Cassius clay, which, was several years ago. And so I was like, oh, right. But so much of this is part of that play. And it's also part of, I think, how we as artists all need to approach our work, no matter what our work is. So I'd love to know what this set of principles means to you, and how you use it in your work.
Yeah, well, it's really deep because I think it's at this stage in my life and career, like I'm really becoming more holistic. I'm really becoming more mind, body, spirit.
Mhm.
I'm really it's becoming just more central to who I am, just all of it. Like this is not my career. This is like what I do, who I am. So these are for life. These are for your life. That you could apply them to your work. You could apply them to anything. It's like tell the story of your name is about knowing thyself
Yeah.
and assessing your journey, and just constantly checking in with yourself and also like just I don't know, there's something kind of old school about that, about like here is my name,
Yeah.
and this is who my parents were and this is who their parents were, and this is the road that took me to where I am, and then um I don't know what the second one was.
Look at your reflection.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look at your reflection. It's just is kind of similar, right? It kind of flows out of the first thing, which is just like, I say that like a reflection is not like that's light. So even right now, you and I, like we're not. It's light. It's light bouncing off of
Yeah.
us. That's being adapted or interpreted as colors and shades. And so it's really just about constantly looking at yourself and being like, what am I exuding? What is bouncing off of me? Right. Again, it's this kind of know thyself thing. I think that the third thing is
Don't reason away your body's.
don't reason away your body. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Don't reason away your body's intuitive sense of what is right. Is the example I brought up was this recent thing where all of these non-black actors who voiced animated characters are resigning, and one of them said, Jenny Slate was saying, when I first took the job, I reasoned that it was okay because of this reason and this reason. And I'm like, we often do that. We often talk ourselves into things that we, don't think are right intuitively. So it's about kind of like learning how to trust your gut, to trust and get to know that part of you that's like, not necessarily the part of you that's like wicked, that's like, oh, like you should slash their tires, like obviously you should, but the part of you that's like that's that's not right,
Yeah.
and just it's the reasoning process is like you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't do that. Just stick
Yeah.
to it.
And I think that that's also that part of all of us that doesn't want to be uncomfortable. And so being willing to be uncomfortable when it's not the right thing, being able
Yeah, and it's fine. Because here's the thing: because it's going to be worse later. That's what
Yep.
I'm saying. Like you don't be uncomfortable now, but it's going to be even worse if you like 2 years from now. You're like,
Yeah.
sorry, because now she can't back. She will go down in history. Like there's 3 seasons of her voicing that character.
Yeah.
So while it's great that she had it's done now. And then
Don't be afraid.
don't be afraid is like,
Yeah.
fear is, we fire off, we're like wired to be afraid.
Mhm.
as a survival technique because we're human and fragile. We get cold and we get hungry and we need a lot of sleep and our feet hurt and you know what I mean? Like we're very fragile people, like species. So fear is wired into us, but we can't act on fear. It just catastrophic thing. I mean, that's what happens with these shootings, you
Yep.
know, that they're like, why are these people resisting? And it's like, well, because they're taking the fear off of you. Like when you pull them over, and you're like all aggressive, they get afraid. So when you grab them, they freak out. You know what I mean? So it's like, we gotta chill with the fear, and not act on it. Just say, okay, I'm afraid, but that's an animal part of me that I don't, that's irrational, and I shouldn't be. And then finally, being alive, being aware and alive, and being public and all that was honestly something that I really say primarily to marginalized peoples, mostly like, it's important to be visible. It's important to, it's like that Lucille Clifton line. It's like, come celebrate with me, that every day something has tried to kill me and failed. You know what I mean? It's that act of resistance of being visible, being seen, and being aware. So, when I say that, my work ties into all of that. Like I try to be, you know, brave in the work. I try to, show Black lives on stage, and I try to really reflect, the world and people as I see it, So it's real deep. Those principles is really like, it's where I'm at right now, like in 5 years, I might have 6 different ones.
It's good. It's good. Yeah, and it made me think about the driving principles of my life too, and I appreciated that. We skipped citizen artist, but
Oh,
that
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Citizen artist. Yeah, I mean, for sure. That's citizen artist is like, we have this dichotomy, I think, between being like, I'm an artist, and it's like, oh, you're a citizen. You're a citizen, and what you contribute, is your art, is your creativity. But all the tactics that you learn as an artist are the same tactics that you can apply, in life, and you owe it to the rest of society to be the artist in the room and provide that perspective as well. So you need to be, at the city council meeting, and being like, well, listen, I run a children's theater, and here's how this affects us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, I want to ask you one quick question before we're probably getting short on time now. I don't want to keep you too long because I know you have boys that have to go to bed. So um, I know you're working on this really interesting project that is kind of a next step in the Muhammad Ali story.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and I'm not sure if everybody in our audience knows about this historic event, but I would love for you to talk a little about it and kind of where you are in that process. It's a
Yeah.
strange time to be making theater, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and honestly, we're being very open about what it can be. We're kind of really exploring some multimedia possibilities for it. But in 1967, shortly before he was stripped of the title for conscientious objection to fighting in Vietnam, Jim Brown and the Black Economic Union had a summit in Cleveland, and they invited Muhammad Ali, and it was Jim Brown, it was Bill Russell, John Wooten, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all these prominent Black athletes had like a closed door meeting with him and tried to talk him, not necessarily talk him out of it, but just be like, yo, we'll support you, but we got to know if you're like for real, and like,
Mhm.
what's this about? And, and really, like challenge him, but like almost like prepare him for the fight ahead. And also, offer financial support if he needed it. And so I just imagine, but no one knows exactly what was said. And so the play kind of imagines what that conversation was. But honestly, the shape it's taking now is that it's a lot of these. It's a lot of my like sort of spoken my breakbeat poet voice, and I'm writing in the voices of different people, but it's just it's so far it's like not really any dialogue. It's just like all these different perspectives and point of views. And we don't know exactly what form it's going to take. You know, it's like we're going to really just I'm just being very open with it and just kind of exploring.
That's so cool. I see that we do have a question from Melody Craven, who is somebody that I knew in Florida. She says, thank you for the conversation. She's especially wondering about how to guide youngins in this social climate. I think you've been talking a little about that. Do you have a different way of approaching the writing when you're writing for young people than you do when you're writing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I tend to keep it moving a little faster.
Yeah.
You know, it moves a little faster. We just get right into it.
It's kind of like short story versus a novel.
I've read some short stories that are like, you know, not exactly page turners, you know. I mean, I think interesting is interesting and boring is boring.
Yeah.
So I just try to be very interesting. Like, you know what I mean?
Because young people will tell you when you're being.
They don't front, yo. They don't front. Like adults front. We front. We're like, oh, interesting. Kids are like,
yeah.
Or they're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You know.
I think it's really interesting that you're coming back to Muhammad Ali. And in this corner, Cassius Clay. It was interesting talking to people who saw it or who had heard about it, because I think Muhammad Ali had this interesting trajectory of being really divisive at certain points in his life, and then like now when we did this play, it was such a bringing together of community, and he has become such a superhero. And I thought and how important he was to the Muslim American community, all the things that I didn't necessarily appreciate as much as I do after knowing this play pretty deeply. And so I think it's really fascinating that you're coming back to this, story.
Yeah.
We are also doing a new play of yours next year called Jacked, which is a hip hop kind of play.
Yeah.
Would you talk a little bit about that? And that's our artwork for it. I don't know.
Play I developed with Cleveland Playhouse. It was stage one in Cleveland Playhouse, partnering on that one, and worked with a really great sort of group, like kind of beat like sonic hip hop collective. Educator, beat maker, DJs, rhythm, science, sound. And it's a play that is sort of like using it's heavy subject matter, but the treatment of it is not heavy.
Yeah.
And
so it's for K through 4, so it can't be too heavy, right?
It's not heavy. It's not heavy, but the seed of it was, I was interested in the effects of the opioid epidemic on children. Like, how did it affect the kids? And so I created this sort of modern fairy tale take on Jack and the Beanstalk. And it's about what happens when Jack comes down with the eggs and what happens with these golden eggs and how it turns his community kind of upside down. Yeah. And so it's a really kind of I won't say out there. It's poignant, I think, and I think it's very entertaining. But I think teachers can lean into it if they choose to, and I think it's for the whole family can get something out of it, because there's music and it's playful and fun, but there's some real so there's some real stuff about addiction in there, and you know, and what it does to kids, you know, as well.
Yeah. And I love that the allegory is great. And then that focus on the young person who feels like it's their fault,
Yeah,
and that kind of reassuring them that it's not your fault, you know.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a sense of guilt. A lot of kids who are in that situation have a sense of guilt, and that really struck me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm excited that we get to do it.
I'm so glad you're doing it.
Our next Idris play.
Heck yeah, let's go.
I want to remind folks watching that they can stream And in This Corner, Cassius Clay, through the Metro Theater Company website, metroplays.org, until the end of July. And it's so great to revisit it. And it's great to have a conversation with you. Is there anything you would like to say that we haven't talked about?
No, it was great. I'm just so glad it's, you know, I'm so glad that you had the foresight to get it recorded and to work with
I know.
TV. I'm so glad because it's really great that we get, you know, this play has had such a great life. I mean, it's really staggering. It's had such a great life, and
Did you expect that? I
no,
mean, I know it was a Louisville story, right?
yes,
You were writing it because he grew up in Louisville.
yes,
And I think we were the first ones to go, hey, we want to do it someplace else, right?
yes, you were, yeah,
Yeah.
you were.
So
Yeah, it's been amazing. Because to me, a play isn't really a real play until it's had more than one production.
yeah, it was a great ride doing it. It was a fabulous celebration for our community at a time when we really needed it. And I'm so grateful you wrote it.
It
And
was, it was my pleasure. Easy play to write, for sure.
we'll
Joy
keep
to write.
writing the plays. We want to do them.
Yeah, you already know.
All right.
All right, thank
Somebody
you
is
so much.
saying, thank you for the conversation.
You are welcome.
Good place to leave it. Thank you, Idris, my friend.
So much.
I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you when we're back with Jacked, maybe.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Good.
All
All right.
Enjoy.
See ya.